Hello, Herkeys Voice listeners. I'm excited to share with you that the University of Iowa Athletic Department will celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX, hosting Herkeys Walk on Saturday, May 7th at our University of Iowa Francis X. Cretzmeyer track. This event will celebrate 50 years of Title IX and all of those who have been committed to providing equitable access to sport for girls and women. The 50-minute walk will be accompanied by activities that educate and celebrate 50 years of Title IX. The event will also be a kickoff to a year-long celebration of 50 years of women's athletics at the University of Iowa. For more information on Herkeys, the Hawk Walk, our Herkeys community, and events surrounding 50 years of Title IX and 50 years of Iowa women's athletics, visit hawkeyesports.com/Herkeys. And now, back to this week's episode of Herkeys Voice.
This is Herkeys Voice, a conversation with special Hawkeye guests focusing on the stories and people behind Hawkeye athletics. Now, here's the host of Herkeys Voice, Iowa women's tennis coach, Sasha Schmid.
Welcome to Herkeys Voice. You've been listening to Herkeys Voice Weekly. You most likely do know that our mission is to celebrate the rich history and tradition of women's athletics at the University of Iowa. Last fall, our Herkeys committee expanded and took on 31 new members who are volunteering and rolling up their sleeves to work on all of the initiatives that surround Iowa women's athletics and the events that we have planned in 2022 and 2023. The Herkeys mission has 3 pillars. They are support, empower, and engage. And on the Herkeys advisory group, we have a committee for each value. Our first big event that we are tackling will take place on May 7th at the Cretzmeyer track, and it's the Herkeys Hawk Walk, celebrating 50 years of Title IX. Our Herkeys advisory group has been working on this event since last fall, and they are so excited about putting on a wonderful community event and generating a lot of awareness and excitement about the years ahead and the amazing anniversaries for 50 years of Title IX and 50 years of Iowa women's athletics. In this episode, I had the chairs of the 3 committees join me to discuss their work on the Herkeys and why they're so passionate about the work that we do in our Herkeys Advisory Committee and all of the exciting upcoming events that we have. I have Laura Wolfe, Brandy Britt, and Sarah Lattenheim. Take a listen to Sarah, Laura, and Brandy. Welcome to Herkeys Voice. We have a great episode today. I have gathered some fantastic women with me here in the podcast room at Carver Hawkeye, and we're going to talk Herkeys and our Hawk Walk and our advisory committee. We have set up an advisory committee that has been working since the early fall last year to kind of put on events, raise awareness, increase support for Iowa women's athletics. And we put a call out for people that were interested in volunteering, and we now have 31 awesome people in our community and in our athletic department coming together, every 4 to 6 weeks to tackle events and work together and be creative and think about how we can raise the profile and celebrate Iowa women's athletics. It's actually been an incredible group of people that have come together, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And I have 3 awesome women from that group joining me today, and I'm excited to introduce them to our Hawkeye community. So let me start one by one. Brandy Britt is on Herkeys Voice. She is actually our one and only 3-time guest to Herkeys Voice.
Wild.
Whoop,
I don't
whoop.
understand.
Welcome.
Not that interesting, I swear. I'm sorry,
Welcome
Hawkeye
back.
fans. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So obviously we've heard your story a few times, but let's just go through it again. Tell us, where you're from, what you do, and how you got to Iowa.
Yeah. So like Sasha said, I'm Brandy Britt. I'm from Plano, Illinois. It's a small town, probably like a suburb of Chicago. I came to Iowa for school, and then I never left, which is not something I had in the plans, but it always works out that way. I have made a few stops along the way to my current role. I used to work in athletic communications. That's where I got my start as an intern in athletic communications, and then I got hired on full-time when I graduated. And then I've since moved over to marketing and social media. And so my long title is Assistant Director of Marketing / Social Media Coordinator.
Every time you're on, I say Brandy is a wonderful follow. So
thank you.
You've got great hype, always telling great stories about Iowa women's athletics and all of our teams. So Hawkeye fans, make sure you follow Brandy.
Yeah, thank you. Yep, so that's me.
So you have been on before because we had a conversation about some of our sports last spring, doing kind of a wrap up and you kind of gave a lot of the insight and perspective on our programs. And then you also joined us when we had an episode on the name, image, and likeness.
Yep.
And you joined Lila on that. And I thought that was a really interesting episode and brought a great perspective. For this episode, you are joining us because you have agreed. We were discussing earlier. We're not quite sure if it was a volunteer position or some sort of, I don't know, we kind of forced you into being chair of one of the 3 advisory committees. Tell us what committee you're currently chairing within the Herkeys advisory group.
Yeah, so I'm chairing the support committee. So there's, like Sasha said, 3 committees. Support handles a lot of like the outward facing things. So social media is in my title, so that makes sense. So a lot of like social outreach, getting people to our events, which is a big reason we're on this podcast today, and telling people about our athletes. So not just getting people there, but making sure people want to come back, but more importantly, telling our student athlete stories. All of our student athletes, male, female, but telling them well and in a way that's engaging to our community at large.
The 3 pillars of the Herkeys programs are support, empower, and engage. And so you have been doing a lot of the good work on the support side, and we can kind of get into more specifics on that too. But that's a great group. There's probably, what do you think, 12 or so people in each, 10, 12 members in each committee?
Yeah, 10 to 12 members. And it's kind of cool because it's from all different facets. So some people are inside of athletics. Some people are outside of athletics. Some are student athletes, coaches, support staff. It's kind of cool to like unite people that are in different walks and hear their opinions and ideas. And I mean, I market for a living, and people are coming in with like different ideas or areas that like aren't really on my radar normally. But maybe should be or could be in the future. So that's been fun to kind of put our heads together and run with it.
It's been a great collaboration. Yeah, and I think hearing the different perspectives has been like great, but also inspiring for me because you just know, because a lot of times we've met these winter nights at like 6 p.m. and you got a lot of things you could be doing, and you've had a long day and you're still here working on behalf of trying to raise awareness for Iowa women's athletics. So you're awesome. Thank you. And gonna hear more about what the support committee is doing. So we also have the Engage committee chair here. So I've been obviously basically angling for some sort of an opportunity to get Laura Wolfe on the podcast. And Laura, here it is.
And here I am.
Here it is.
And I only came because I wanted to see how this setup worked.
What do you think?
I think it's so cool. I've listened to so many of your podcasts, and they are just truly amazing, Sasha. Oh. They're amazing. And it just really, you feel connected to Iowa athletics and all aspects of it because of your podcast. So,
well, you are an incredible Hawkeye fan and get behind all the teams and get behind my team. I'm so happy you are a part of this advisory group, and then kind of put your arm up in some way, I guess.
Right. Well, I feel like, so I came here in 97, so quite a while ago. And my husband is Brian Wolfe, and he's in charge of UI Sports Medicine, and he covers a lot of the women's teams, including women's basketball. That's his big one, but there's a lot of them that he covers. We came here in 97. He matched here for residency, and I remember crying on match day. And so many people have heard the story. I apologize, but I did cry. I literally cried because I didn't want to come to Iowa. I thought we were going to get his second choice and be in Chicago, and that's where I grew up. I grew up in Barrington, Illinois, another suburb.
Suburbs.
Yeah. And I didn't think I wanted to be in Iowa, so I said, fine, I'll do it for 5 years, and then I want to go back to Chicago. And I came here, and for a couple of years, I was like, okay, changing my mind, and I want to stay here, like forever.
What was it? What was it about Iowa City?
I just, I think it's such a gem, Iowa City. And sometimes I feel like I need to keep this secret to myself, because if other people hear about it, like they're going to come here and then maybe it might not be a gem. But it's a small town so that you can get across town and it's not crazy Chicago traffic. Like I go back there and pull my hair out, and but there's so much here for families and for kids and for young adults that I went to a Division III school. So to come here and be a part of a Division I school it's huge. And so I've been a Hawkeye fan since day one, and up until now didn't really feel like I could really contribute. So it's great to be something other than Brian's wife and be a part of helping out and bringing awareness to this.
I have another claim to fame. Laura and I together stormed the field hockey field in the Michigan match. We were in tandem there.
We did.
And we
did.
We were very proud of that.
I think I was the first one. I'm like, come on, Sasha, we're
did.
going.
You did. I'm not sure I would have gone without a little bit of a push.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the type of fan you are.
But that was right after, do you remember, like right after the football?
Yep.
Yeah. And when they all stormed the field. And so like storming the field, that was the thing to do. And so you got to bring this kind of stuff to women's sports too.
Yes.
It's not just, about men's sports. So let's share the wealth and
Yes.
show our love for those ladies too. And
You're also a mom.
I'm a mom of 3, correct. My oldest son, Jack, is just graduated from Loyola University, which is where Brian went to school. And so he graduated in December and has started his MBA there. He's staying in at Loyola there for his MBA program. My next son is Brian Wolfe. We used to call him BJ. He's now Brian. He wanted to be called Brian now.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he's made a change. So now I have to change what I'm calling my son. It's really hard. But he's at my alma mater, which is DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana. So he's still sporting the black and gold. And actually, his claim to fame, he was called out by the university president on move-in day for wearing an Iowa shirt.
Oh.
So there was this big convocation, and they called him out there. Yeah, you, Mr. Iowa, I see you. You're going to have to wear DePaul garb from now on. So that was funny. So he's playing tennis at a Division III school there.
I love that.
And so that's where I went to school. I grew up, and then my youngest is Lucy. She's a sophomore. She's buddies with your Lucy.
Yep, we got 2 Lucys, both sophomores at West High.
And she plays basketball and has always played basketball. And we actually just got back from Dallas this past weekend. I got in at 3 a.m. Our flight was delayed coming back from playing AAU basketball down there.
Where Brian is also a girl dad and coaches the AAU team.
Correct.
I think that's
Kenyon
awesome.
Murray. Kenyon Murray is his sidekick, and the 2 of them are phenomenal coaches, along with Kurt Miller. So, yeah. A lot of these girls have been together since they were in 3rd grade, so it's fun to watch them.
And I think that just goes to the heart of why, girls, and you're living it, girls and women in sport. And
Correct.
You're also somebody who competes. Let's talk a little bit about your tennis, Laura.
Oh, Sasha, my tennis. Thank God I don't think you've really officially watched me play tennis, because then I think you might have some other things to say. But yeah, I play on a USTA women's league, and we have lessons every week, and we play for fun, and it's a great. I have my competitiveness shown through this.
Yep, and I love that there's a lifelong, use of sports, and I think that's important. I think having a competitive outlet is really, really important. And your USTA team has always been supportive of our Iowa women's tennis team and attends the matches, and I'm grateful for that. There's a great synergy between the community and the people that play tennis in our community and our team, and I love that. I think that's one of the most special things. So for all of those reasons, it did make sense that you came out and joined the Herkeys Advisory Committee.
Sure, for sure.
And took upon chair duties, and talk a little bit about what's the broad vision of the Engage pillar.
And I was listening to Brandy talk about Empower, I think there is a lot of overlap,
Yep.
Yeah. So I feel like ours is also to engage with the community and try to bring people in and find reasons for people to come. So at the race, we're in charge of, why are people going to want to be there at the race kind of thing. But reaching out to the community is trying to get people to come to these amazing events that the women have. you're right there, you know? I mean, and most of them are free or nearly free. Mm-hmm. So like, why not come out to these events? So so I think it's a great awareness for these girls with this program. And
I think in today's age, I was thinking about this before we started recording. It's nice to have a cause that is just good and that it isn't divisive. We can all get behind it. We can all be collaborative, and just being able to raise awareness for girls and women in sport is huge. Support Iowa women's athletics specifically because I think we do just need a little bit more advocacy for some of our women's sports, but also because what we're celebrating to kick off is Title IX, just like historic legislation. Okay, and we also have joining us Sarah Latnin, who is chairing our Empower group. I'm actually a member of your group, Sarah. You are an incredible staff member in our athletic department and just one of the rock stars here. Tell us a little bit about your journey to Iowa and what you do here for Iowa athletics.
So much like Brandy, I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, and
Wow. Suburb kids.
I'm from Elk Grove Village, Illinois, so
3 for
northwest
3.
suburb, down the road
That's
from
very
Barrington.
close. Yes.
Came to Iowa. I wanted to be a doctor, but clearly along the way that path changed. I also had no intention of staying here, but here I am 5 years later. I did leave for 1 year. I was a Minnesota Gopher for a year and worked up at their athletic department, but came back down.
Cold? Did it get too cold up there?
It's all the same, really. Midwest is Midwest.
Well, I think it's really interesting. You're all from a suburb of Chicago. No one really thought they would stay here. And Iowa City just sucked all of you guys in.
Somehow here we are.
Yep.
I might have the longest, though. The longest stretch, 97. I'm here.
Was not here in 97.
I was not either.
So now I work in event management in the athletic department, and I have the opportunity to work with a handful of amazing teams on their home events. For example, we just had Big Ten tennis tournament this past week, and it's always exciting when we have the opportunity to showcase our teams in that scenario.
You're an amazing tournament director. It's not an
Thank
easy
you.
task. It's something that takes about a year to plan and work through. Mm-hmm. And it is definitely the most window clings that I've ever seen at the Hawkeye Tennis Recreation
I don't
Center.
think there's a bare window over
There
at the
isn't.
HERC.
I can't wait to go see it. I can't wait.
No, it's very festive, and you did an amazing job. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. And
Thank you.
for a coach, I feel like when we put on these events, it represents really our program to the other 13 teams that are coming into town. So it's such a source of pride when we put on like such high quality, classy events. I mean, every time we have hosted anything, and I've thrown a lot at you this year, you hosted our regionals. I threw 176
Nothing can be harder
tennis
than
players.
that was.
in rainy weather and cold
Yeah.
weather. But you always put the event on in a way that just makes me so proud to be a Hawkeye. So you're really special, Sarah.
That's why we do it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's not easy. And so you also now have taken on this advisory committee, and it's not like you have a lot of free time. Why get involved in this and take this up?
Yeah, so over the past couple years, I've been really just wanting to get more involved in the community, whether it's within athletics or otherwise in the Iowa City community. So when I'd always heard about Herkeys, and I knew there was like a brunch or something, but I never really knew what else there was. So when they sent out a message looking for more people to help out, I was like, absolutely, I want to get involved in this. Didn't think I'd end up on a podcast, but Sasha roped me into that one. So it's been a great opportunity to get to know people I wouldn't otherwise meet, both within the department and outside of the department. I'm actually a vice chair to Kara Park, who I think is our official chair of our Empower committee, and it's been a great opportunity to get to know her and the people over on the other side of our athletics campus too.
One of my favorite things is like you and Kara have become such great friends.
Talk all the time.
I know. I mean, really, it's really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the whole goal of women empowering women supporting women, and we have men on this committee too.
Yeah.
But I think that just the collaboration and the synergy that's come from just connecting with other women that have a similar mindset and love to be able to be supporting Iowa women's athletics has been so cool.
Yeah, and even getting to work with people I work with every day, like Brandy, in a different capacity.
Yeah.
This is something we don't usually get to do. So.
Yeah. Laura, has it been interesting for you to see this, because you've seen it kind of probably through Brian's lens a little bit, through the sports medicine lens, and now you kind of come into like the internal workings of Cover Hawkeye? Has it been kind of interesting? I'm curious, what has it been like for you?
Because, like, at basketball games and such, we see all these faces walking around. I'm like, oh, I know you now, and so that's been fun. But just like realizing how much a part, how many of there are that take to make this work, right? And to make this work well and a smooth burning machine. But there are so many people, and I have, you guys are like celebrities, I mean, like I tell all these athletes too, that we have athletes on our teams, like student athletes, which is amazing to have these girls come out, and women now come out and be a part and volunteer. And, so I feel like I'm part of the gang.
You are.
We're happy to have you.
You are. So let's talk a little bit about the event on May 6th. So this is our first event. So Brandy, you were talking earlier about how really this is kind of kicking things off. Kind of fill us in on what's happening.
Yeah, so there's 2 important anniversaries here. This year is the 50th anniversary of Title IX legislation passing and going into effect. And obviously that is huge. We would not all be sitting at this table likely if that had not passed. It has revolutionized women's athletics across the board, and education for women. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But also it's the 50th anniversary coming up of Iowa women's athletics, which is so cool to just think about. Like, people are going to look back on this anniversary and how we celebrated it. And this is kind of crazy. I lived in a house in college, and my roommates called it the Deuce 7, 27. Sarah lived in the same house.
I lived in the house after
a couple
Brandy.
years ago. It's crazy, wild. I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a 25-year of Iowa women's athletics banner in our.
I just got chills. No,
I know, in this loft, and we found it, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And we hung it in our garage in college, and everyone would come over and see it, and they'd comment on it. And so I was like, first of all, I don't know how that banner got there, but the fact that we both lived in that house, and then now we're coming on the 50th year.
So where is that banner? Because I was actually at the 25th anniversary. Because
27 North Johnson.
27 North Johnson
Maybe
Street.
we should go track it down.
We need to get that. We need to hunt that down.
It's still there.
Oh, that'd be so
Isn't
fun.
that crazy?
I remember we had a dinner, and it was in the IMU, and it was a wonderful celebration of 25 years, and they had women from all of the different decades get up on a panel and speak, and it's a memory that I clearly remember because I felt such pride for being a part of Iowa athletics at the 25th anniversary. So here I am at the 50th anniversary, but I also feel like such a responsibility now to continue on and keep celebrating that too. So yeah, that's a wild story.
We should go back and knock on the door.
We should. I would love to go see it, honestly. Great memories in that house.
That's cool.
We lived in we had the same room, we figured out.
Yeah. And I
2
lived
years
there
after. She lived there a year after.
Yeah, because she and her roommates left a note on we're getting really sidetracked, left a note on the fridge on how they had all these amazing memories in the house. And there's this dollar bill on the stairs to the basement that no one will touch.
Well, and it has to be a house that has ties back to either student athletes
somehow.
Somehow, because how did that banner get there?
Right.
And I remember my roommates and I found it, we're like, this is so cool.
And now you're in charge of creating the event to celebrate 50 years.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
And you were working on another banner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We got
crazy.
We love signage over
We
here,
love signage.
We're gonna get some good banners. So to kick this off, we are doing a 50-minute walk, 1 minute for every year, 50 years of Title IX on May 6th. It starts at 11 at the Cretzmeyer track. And it's an event that we felt like would really be something where the community and the athletic department, staff, coaches, student athletes could kind of do together and have an activity where you could be united and celebrate symbolically 50 years of Title IX with a 50-minute walk. And it's followed up by a softball game after the walk. And it's a busy weekend. There's a lot going on that weekend. It's Mother's Day weekend, but it really is a kickoff to both of these 2 anniversaries that Brandy was talking about. Laura, what do you think about this event, and what will it mean in our community, and what do you hope we can achieve?
Well, like Sasha said, there are a number of walks that same day, and it just so happens that, it's really hard to plan something so that you have the only event that day. That's going to happen, especially when you're talking about springtime and limited weather and that kind of thing. But, I think that coming out and showing your support for women's athletics and what this has meant to the university and all women in general is, a huge thing. There's going to be a lot of really cool things. I actually remember I used to be on the Iowa Junior Service League, and we did a walk because I'm like a runner, and track and cross country were my thing. So we did a walk, and this is hard to do, like get people out to come and do. We did a 5K. It was called the Solstice Stride way back when. And so anyway, I think that this event in itself is going to be amazing for all kids. There's going to be something there for all ages, young kids, middle-aged kids, high school kids, adults, people who are Hawkeye lovers, anything, it'll be great to come out and show your support.
And I hope it is. I hope we do have a lot of different generations. I hope we have a lot of men too that are come out and join us.
Absolutely.
Mothers, daughters on Mother's Day weekend.
Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Right.
So your group has been working on activities. You've got
Correct.
some fun things going on in the infield of the track.
Right. So we wanted to kind of try to engage people as you go along and you walk. 50 minutes isn't a long time, but we do want to have a lot of our the things that we've learned about Title IX, shown here. And so people can learn about what this means to Iowa, what this means for women. A lot of our athletes are going to be there. I know like the field hockey team is going to be there, and the soccer team is going to be there. And like I told these girls, you're famous. And so like you and your teams in itself, the tennis team are going to come. And I think they'll have some activities and engage with the fans and be able to take pictures, and maybe we'll have a volleyball net, a little soccer goal, and show them how it's done. But I think that, there's going to be the learning take place about Title IX and what the history of, we're going to have trivia, and we're going to have photo opportunities and quizzes and things like that to engage the community as they're walking around. So
I know Laura Vanderberg's going to be there doing some interviews and
she's
have
amazing.
the mic.
Isn't
she is amazing.
Yeah,
she always will bring a lot of good, fun interviews
Life.
to everybody in life, and some DJ and some music. I've been advocating for all women's empowerment music. Like I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar.
Oh,
Just on
isn't that
repeat.
Helen
on
Reddy?
repeat. Yeah, Helen Reddy. Yes, that's what I'm advocating for, a women's empowerment playlist. Brandy, what do you think?
I love it. We can figure it out.
Just a really good themes across the day that kind of capture the importance of Title IX. Obviously, in the realm of sport, it's been incredible. But I recently did a presentation on the importance of Dr. Grant, who comes from our community and obviously legendary, and one of the giants who made sure that Title IX continued to be passed and continued to have the OCR regulations that made it reach its full maximum potential in the years that came after 1972. But some of the things that, I was learning about, like, it had its largest impact in high schools. And in high schools where we saw girls' high school sports improve or increase the greatest, those are the states where we have seen women in the workforce expand between 2 to 3% greater than the other states. So you can really see the economic benefit of being able to give opportunities for girls in sports because of all of the leadership skills that it teaches.
And it boosts their confidence, right? Yes. They become confident playing high school sports, and that translates into their role as a woman in the communities.
It's really been incredible to think about even the number of women that have taken over in political office since the passage of Title IX. The women that I think I had seen where like 97% of C-suite executives who are women can report that they were some sort of a student athlete, either in high school or in college. It's an incredible correlation between our women CEOs and leaders in the business community. And being able to be involved in sport. And obviously, we still have a lot of work to do, because the other stat is that the number of girls that are currently participating in high school sports has dramatically, like 1,000% increased, but it is still not at the level of the number of boys that were playing high school sports in 1972. Wow. So there's a lot of work to be done. And so that's part of, what's exciting about bringing an event like this to our community. Sarah, we have been working on the Empower, which has been a really kind of an overwhelming project, I would have to say at some point, because we're kind of in charge of the education part and like going back through even the timeline of what's happened in Title IX and what's happened in the past 50 years of Iowa women's athletics. But you've been really being great and working really hard on that. Yeah,
it's turned out to be probably more than I expected it to be. But but we've been doing a lot of research, and it did get quite overwhelming, but it's for wonderful reasons, because we didn't want to have to cut back on all these achievements that our women's teams have had over the past 50 years. So we really had to take a step back and kind of reassess how we're presenting our information for this walk here. But it's been incredible. I mean, I personally didn't really know a lot about Title IX. I know it's this overarching thing, but to be able to talk to Paula Jantz, one of our former administrators, and she lived through that, and just hearing her stories of working with Dr. Grant and her time in the athletic department, it's been honestly an incredible experience for myself without even having to put that information out to educate other people yet.
Well, I have felt the same way, but I'll also say one of the things that I think will be a long-lasting, really important effect of this work that you're working on is actually having a record of all of the stats that have come,
right.
Because we're realizing we don't really have a lot of those statistics from the 70s and 80s
right.
about women's athletics
from
at
the
our
2000s,
disposal.
2010s, we have more than you could ever want. But as we do get back into the 70s, we're so lucky to have Paula with us on this committee, because a lot of it's anecdotal or like physical documents she has from her time. And thank goodness she packed this away somewhere for us to use. But it's been a lot.
And we have been in contact with the Women's Archives and getting a lot of great information from them. They have all of Dr. Grant's papers there, which is incredible. And there's actually a digital archives that anybody can go onto the Iowa Library System and type in the Christine Grant archives, and the papers are incredible. But you and I have also taken an afternoon into the basement of the Hall of Fame.
Yes, that was an experience.
I didn't know there was a basement.
There's a basement. It is a little bit like Grandma's basement.
A lot of it probably came from Grandma's basements across the state.
But the Hall of Fame, that building isn't that old.
No, and so I think what happens, it's really interesting. A lot of great Hawkeye fans, when they're cleaning out their homes or maybe cleaning out your parents' homes, bring a lot of Hawkeye fan gear, a lot of programs, sweaters, newspapers, pictures, and we've taken it in. And so it's, we've kind of, in an effort to kind of make sure we're not missing anything, gone down there. And that was overwhelming.
That's when we hit a point where we realized to get everything we wanted to be done by the Hawk Walk and to know that it's without a doubt that it was accurate. Yep. And I think that was probably the bigger thing too. We said we have to take a step back. We were going to have great information available at the Hawk Walk, but to do it justice, it's going to be a nice summer project, I think.
Yeah, I think too, though, just, I don't know, some encouragement to keep going. Like, that is so much bigger than any of us at this table. And
Absolutely.
In our jobs, and I come, I used to work in athletic communications, which was that record keeping, and I understand, like, you go back so far and it's like, well, this is where it kind of stops. Yeah. And you're like, okay. Yeah. Or it exists, but it exists in 3 different places on campus.
Right.
The Hall of Fame basement, the Women's Archives, the library, whatever it may be.
Getting access to photos is a process.
Yeah. So I'm so thankful for the photo archive we have now of our current. Like, it's not going to be a problem in the future because of the work you're doing now. So that's really big, guys. Yeah.
And I think it's a good time to even say now that if you're listening and you have information from the past of Iowa women's history, whether you're an alum or you know somebody who might have digital photos, contact us. Absolutely. We have a Herkeys website, and we are looking for this as we go through this year and really start accumulating all of our websites, all of the accomplishments, and really kind of creating a digital archive that is available for the history of Iowa women's athletics. On Iowa, HawkeyeSports.com/Herkeys is where you can find all of the information about the events that are upcoming. And so this event that we're having on May 7th, thank you, Brandy, on May 7th is actually the first weekend in May, and then the first weekend in May of 2023, which I think is the 5th through the 7th, will be the 50th anniversary of Iowa women's athletics. So the first weekends in May of 22 and 23 are really our big events. And so part of the work that Sarah and I have been doing, we've kind of thought it's going to be a 12-month process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which all for good reason, but there's a lot of information to dig out. So.
But you did create some banners for this upcoming Hawk Walk. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. So we're going to have 2 large banners. The first is just a basic outline of Title IX, a timeline rather, of Title IX, when each of our women's athletic programs started, even some of the originals, like we had bowling and badminton at one point. So those are all listed on there, and it's also a nod to Dr. Grant as well. She's featured on there, and a wonderful quote from her, which I'm going to butcher it if I try to.
The not interested in sport.
Yeah.
Something about women she was told women aren't interested in sport, and I just couldn't accept that.
Yeah.
So we'll have that out there as a great photo opportunity, and what we plan to reuse that throughout the next year through all of our events. And then we have a fun interactive banner where each of the attendees can write down a message about what Title IX means to them. So we'll have that for people to sign or write on when they arrive to the event. And then during the walk, we're going to hang it up so people can look at it, see others' reflections on Title IX. And I think hopefully with the different generations we're going to have there, it'll be fun to see the differences in like what someone from the 70s versus my experience, or that's going to be a fun one to see.
I love that idea. I hope that's a banner we can continue to use.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And really, there are many universities around the nation that are having, celebrations for 50 years of Title IX this year. And that's awesome. And everybody should definitely do whatever they can in their community. But we're special because we are the home of really the battle and the legends who forged the path to create Title IX. We claim them in our history. They are Hawkeyes. And so this is a really unique time for us to be celebrating our history. And as we celebrate our history, really use that history to build for the future. And it's kind of timely in a way that as we're celebrating 50 years of Title IX, in a few weeks' time, we will also be celebrating the life of Dr. Christine Grant on May 22nd at her celebration of life at Carver Hawkeye Arena, which I believe begins at 3 p.m. And really, paying tribute to the work that she did on behalf of women here in our community at the University of Iowa, within the state of Iowa, within our nation, and really the world as a whole. Just an incredible fortune that we had to have her be a part of our community. And we are uniquely positioned to be celebrating both her life, 50 years of Title IX, and 50 years of Iowa women's athletics in huge, huge ways. Mm-hmm. Brandy, when you're thinking about that through the marketing department, I know you guys have a lot of things planned, but there's nobody else like Iowa Hawkeyes in the nation right now.
No, I think, like I was saying earlier, it's just so much bigger than us. And so, we are kind of the birthplace. Dr. Grant is so pivotal in all of this. And I know we're working on some really big projects, and I've gotten to like see footage of Dr. Grant giving speeches and read letters that she's written and all of that's coming that you all get to see too, but like in a big way. But to be able to get to do that work here is so special to me, because other universities are doing things to celebrate Title IX, women's athletics, all of these things. But like, how cool is it that like we have these moments of Dr. Grant going to, floors of Congress and advocating on behalf of women's athletics. Like, she is a Hawkeye. She was advocating on behalf of like the Iowa Hawkeyes and the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So
a huge source of pride.
Yeah. So, and I think like Sarah, it's like I've learned a lot about Title IX, about what went into it, what it took, or it was passed and then it was taken away. Yeah. And I didn't really like even know that fully. And I was like, oh, I can't, can you imagine what that was like to like, have this passed and then ripped from you, and the AIAW and
all of her work in all of those ways that she continued to work on a national level and all the while still be our athletic director.
Right. And then the impact that she had on each of her coaches. So the fact that she was able to be fighting on a national level, all while keeping up and maintaining relationships with not only coaches, but student athletes here at the time, and all of whom have praised her consistent. Like, she did both so well.
Incredible.
Yeah. And that isn't like, I can't wrap my head around that totally. like, how would you have time to do all that? She made it. Like, she dedicated her life to this work.
And I think, you know, the community, I think, is going to learn more and more about Dr. Grant as we go through these celebrations, because in some, you know, respects, it seems like she's almost more well known outside of our community than maybe even within our community. I think she was such a humble, approachable person here. And it's really at those other levels when you're kind of talking about her nationally that people are in awe of her. But yet she just resided here her entire life, you know, in Coralville. And I think we're going to really be able to find so many ways to celebrate her life and really have her imprint become more and more known on our community, and then the legacy of her history. That's what I hope comes about from all of these, you know, momentous events, the celebration of her life and all of these anniversaries.
Yeah, and then from like a marketing perspective too, in my eyes, it's so cool and such a treat to be able to work with women who Dr. Grant directly impacted. And so I was fortunate enough to meet Dr. Grant a couple of times, but my experiences of Dr. Grant live through talking to you, Sasha, and Lisa Salucci and Lisa Bluter, and then the impact that I know that they have on other women. It's like I can see this passage of impact in a way that's so beautiful, and that's like her legacy is living on, and I see it every day, and then I get to tell people about that, and that is really cool and really exciting.
Makes your job easy.
Yeah. It's like, thank you. Yeah. Here's a bow on it. Yeah.
I mean, Laura, what are your thoughts? I mean, you have Lucy, and you were always involved in athletics. You're really active. And, you know, if you think about maybe even your mom's life and you think about the generation and the difference of experiences in terms of one generation.
Right. So when I went to college, in high school, I ran cross country and track. But when I went to DePauw, they did not have a cross country team my freshman year. So there was a girl that ran with the boys. And, you know, she, after that, their sophomore year, they started a cross country team. And I was a part of that very first cross country team. And so you started to see that, you know, that was in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Dating myself here. I'm older than all of you. The 80s. And, you know, that still, you know, what impacted me, and be able to be a part of those programs that were recently being developed, and now to see Lucy and how she's able to participate at such a high level at such a young age, right? You know, going to Dallas and being able to compete in basketball and the sport that you love, and it's just the opportunities have been increased substantially for women. But like you said, we're not done yet. There's still a lot more to go and a lot more to make people aware of. And like we were talking about, Brandy said, I never knew the impact of the things that have happened here than I do after joining Herkeys. Mm-hmm. You kind of knew a little bit of it, but not to the extent that I know now. And I think that if we can, you know, branch that out to our community, how special that makes, you know, and just the camaraderie and the pride that you then have as being a part of this community will be huge. So
I know all of the athletes and coaches are going to have special 50th anniversary of Iowa Women's Athletics logo warm-up shirts this year. And I've heard that some of our men's teams will also be wearing them in honoring the women, which I love. It kind of gives me goosebumps. I think we're going to be able to really raise the profile. We are really excited to have a theme at Fry Fest with our partners in Iowa City and the community that will be celebrating 50 years of Title IX, 50 years of Iowa Women's Athletics, and celebrating Dr. Grant as their theme at Fry Fest in our community. So it's really been such momentum embracing all of these celebrations and really all of the values of support, empower, engage that really are within the Herkeys pillars and within the Herkeys values. So I think it's really, really exciting to see where maybe, you know, in 18 months we land from all of this. You know, I have reflected a lot on Iowa athletics and collegiate women's athletics as a whole nationwide. And I just continue to really believe that it's up to us to advocate for ourselves. Part of the initial reason for Herkeys Voice was I didn't want to have to wait for a reporter from the Des Moines Register or the Gazette to pick up the phone and want to tell a story. We need to tell our stories. We need to promote ourselves. And then we really need to ensure that we're establishing sports that have a value to our community. for me, I think that's the unique thing about women's sports. We can be such an asset and value to our community in a really unique way that makes us be partners. And we don't need to have value by charging admission, but we can have value with the people that live in our community. And the Hawk Walk is a great, I think, way to kind of show that synergy between the athletic department and the community. It's something everybody can do together. You can have hands-on experience and walk together. And like Laura says, you can walk with the student athletes and walk with the coaches and take pictures. And we all have a mom, a sister, a daughter, an aunt who is involved in athletics or lives have been impacted by athletics. And it's a real way to be able to celebrate that experience and fight that it continues and grows. Maybe let us know where you can sign up on Hawkeye Sports.
Yeah, if you go to hawkeyesports.com/Herkeys, HERKYS, all the information is there. You can register there. Different price points for adults, kids. 12 and under are free.
Bring a whole team.
Yeah, you can bring a whole team.
Have a corporate team.
Team.
And we have prizes.
We have prizes. Coach Lucci was out there working on them, and they're provided by our sports teams. So think some
What are some of the categories?
We have a number of categories, and I think that we will post those, or they're going to be going out so people know ahead of time what these categories are. But mother-daughter teams, and the biggest, or the team that traveled the farthest, person that traveled the farthest. We've got that. We've got mother-daughter teams.
We're gonna have to think of more categories because of all the T-shirts I saw Salucci carrying down the hall.
There's a lot of cool gear.
These are
guys.
one-of-a-kind prizes, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes.
And there might even be prizes that we hand out to trivia.
Prizes.
Yes.
People who answer trivia.
Yep.
Because I didn't get that one at the field hockey. I was running to try to answer the question correctly, the song.
And that was a free T-shirt for name the song at the field hockey game. Yeah. And Laura didn't make it up on time.
I didn't make it. So then my name would have been announced, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm glad I didn't.
And it was a 90s rap song.
Did I pick it? Maybe.
Might have been. I was impressed.
But yeah, I think it's going to be fun. We have a ton of student athletes signed up to volunteer, both men and women, coming out to volunteer at this event. Just to be able to interact with the community. That's pretty cool. They're excited about it. We're excited about it. And I hope it's just a really good springboard for the year to come.
Me too. Get lunch and then go over and watch the softball game and cheer on the Hawkeyes on the softball field too. But yeah, I think it's a launch, Brandy. Let's have a great year. Let's knock it out of the park. I know we're going to be busy working on all of this, but I'll tell you guys, I look forward to every meeting because I get to see you guys, and it's just such a wonderful group, a real all-star
really
group. Let's keep working. Going to have lots of things to celebrate. And thanks for coming out and joining this Herkeys Voice podcast. If you're listening, join us at Cretzmeyer Track on Saturday, May 7th, to join us for a Hawk Walk celebrating 50 years of Title IX. And as always, go Hawks!
This has been Herkeys Voice. The mission of the Herkeys program is to help our Hawkeye community learn, support, and engage with Iowa women's athletics. To learn more about the Herkeys initiative, visit herkeys.hawkeyesports.com. Hawkeye fans, remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Once you become a Fight for Iowa podcast subscriber, you'll automatically receive the latest episodes of the Fight for Iowa podcast, the Herkeys Voice podcast, Hawk Talk replays, exclusive game day content, and more. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Hawkeye Sports Network.